The photograph slipped from Marcus Donovan's hands, landing face up on the mahogany desk. Two women stared back at him from different decades. Same green eyes. Same copper hair catching sunlight. Same gentle smile that could calm storms. One was his wife, Catherine. Dead 3 years. The other was the nanny he'd hired yesterday. Very much alive. His hands trembled as he reached for his phone. The background check had come back clean. Too clean. No social media before 2019. No employment history before Chicago. No family listed anywhere. Isabella Morgan didn't exist. Or rather, she shouldn't exist. Because the woman caring for his children downstairs, singing to them in a voice that made his chest ache with impossible memories, looked exactly like the wife he buried. And that was when Marcus Donovan realized something that made his blood run cold. Someone had sent her. The question was why. Hold on tension, but to understand how a single father became convinced his dead wife had returned, we need to go back. Back to the day Marcus Donovan's carefully controlled world shattered. Back to when 3 wild children and one mysterious woman collided in a mansion that hadn't felt like home in 3 years. Back to the moment everything changed. ACT-1, the breaking of Marcus Donovan, 96 hours earlier. Marcus Donovan stood in his corner office overlooking Lake Michigan, phone pressed to his ear, listening to his life fall apart. "Mr. Donovan, I'm sorry, but I can't continue." The voice belonged to Mrs. Patterson, nanny number 14 in 18 months. "Your children they're too much for one person. River locked me in the pantry for 4 hours yesterday. Stone put dish soap in my coffee. And Storm," her voice cracked. "Storm told me his mother visits him at night and says I'm trying to replace her." Marcus closed his eyes. "Mrs. Patterson, I've been doing this 30 years. I've never encountered children so determined to drive every caregiver away." She paused. "They're not bad children, Mr. Donovan. They're grieving. But I can't help them. Nobody can." The line went dead. Marcus set down his phone with controlled precision. Through the glass wall of his office, he could see his executive team waiting for the quarterly review meeting. 47 employees depending on Donovan Technologies staying profitable. Investors expecting 15% growth. The board breathing down his neck after last quarter's stumble. And at home, 3 7-year-old boys who'd decided that destroying every adult in their path was easier than accepting their mother was never coming back. He was failing at everything that mattered. "Mr. Donovan." His assistant, Linda, appeared in the doorway. "The board meeting starts in 5 minutes. And there's a woman here about the nanny position. I told her you weren't accepting walk-ins, but she said, send her away. She said she's willing to start today. No advance payment required. Just a trial period." Marcus looked up sharply. "Nobody works without payment. That's what I told her. She said if your children don't want her to stay, she'll leave without charging you a penny. But if they do..." Linda consulted her notes. "She wants room, board, and a fair wage." Her words exactly. Despite everything, Marcus felt something stir. Curiosity maybe. Or desperation. "What's her name?" "Isabella Morgan." "Send her in." The woman who entered Marcus's office didn't look like any nanny he'd interviewed. She was young, late 20s, maybe, with copper hair pulled into a practical ponytail and green eyes that seemed to see straight through his expensive suit to the exhausted father beneath. She wore jeans and a simple blue sweater. No designer labels. No jewelry except a silver chain that disappeared beneath her collar. But it was her face that made Marcus's breath catch. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. But because something about her features felt achingly familiar in a way he couldn't place. "Mr. Donovan." Her voice was soft but steady. "I'm Isabella Morgan. I understand you need someone to care for your sons. Marcus gestured to the chair across from his desk. You realize you're the 14th nanny in 18 months? That the last one lasted exactly 3 days? I do. Then why are you here? Isabella met his gaze without flinching. Because your children don't need another nanny. They need someone who understands what they're really doing. And what's that? Testing whether you'll give up on them like you gave up on everything else. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Excuse me. Your sons lost their mother. Grief like that, it's not about being sad. It's about being terrified that everyone else will leave too. Isabella leaned forward slightly. They're not trying to drive people away. They're trying to find out who'll stay no matter what. Who'll prove they're worth fighting for. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't know anything about my family. I know that River is the leader because someone has to protect his brothers. I know Stone acts out because anger is easier than admitting he's scared. And I know Storm talks to his mother because he's not ready to let her go. Isabella paused. I also know you're working 16-hour days because if you stop moving, you'll have to feel everything you've been running from for 3 years. The silence stretched between them. Marcus should have ended the interview right there. Should have called security. Should have demanded to know who this woman was and how she knew things nobody should know. Instead, he heard himself say, when can you start? ACT2, the woman who knew too much. Isabella Morgan moved into the Donovan estate that afternoon with a single suitcase and a canvas bag of sheet music. Marcus watched from his study window as his sons circled her like wolves evaluating prey. River, identifiable by the scar above his left eyebrow, stood with arms crossed. Stone kicked at the gravel driveway, radiating hostility. Storm hung back, watching with the too old eyes of a child who'd seen too much. Boys, Marcus called from the doorway. This is Ms. Morgan. She'll be staying in the guest wing. We don't want her. River's voice was flat, final. Yeah, Stone added. We want Mrs. Patterson back. Marcus barely suppressed a bitter laugh. 3 days ago, Stone had filled Mrs. Patterson's shoes with maple syrup. But Isabella just crouched down to eye level with the triplets. I don't blame you for not wanting me here. If I were you, I wouldn't want another stranger either. River's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Then why are you here? Because your dad asked me to try. And because, Isabella's voice softened. Because I lost someone too. Someone who mattered more than anything. And I know what it's like when people expect you to be okay before you're ready. Storm took a half step closer. Who did you lose? For a moment, pain flickered across Isabella's face. Then she smiled, sad and genuine. His name was Michael. He was my husband. The word hung in the air. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. She understood. This woman understood in a way nobody else had. Did he die? Storm whispered. Yes. 2 years ago. Do you still talk to him? Isabella's eyes shimmered. Every day. Storm's small hand reached out, touching Isabella's arm like he was testing whether she was real. Does he answer? Sometimes. In my heart. Isabella's smile was gentle. Just like your mama answers you. Marcus watched Storm's face crumple. The boy who'd been holding everything together for his brothers finally broke, tears streaming down his cheeks as he threw his arms around Isabella's neck. I miss her, Storm sobbed. I miss her so much. I know, sweetheart. I know. River and Stone stood frozen, watching their brother cry in a stranger's arms. Then, as if pulled by invisible strings, they moved closer. River's hand found Isabella's shoulder. Stone pressed against her side. And this woman Marcus had met 2 hours ago held all 3 of his broken sons while they cried for the mother they'd lost. When Marcus turned away from the window, his own cheeks were wet. The first week was a revelation. Isabella didn't try to impose rules or structure. She didn't lecture about behavior or consequences. She simply existed. Present and patient and utterly unshakable. When River tested her by accidentally breaking her phone, Isabella just smiled and said, "I guess we'll have to actually talk to each other now." When Stone put salt in her coffee, she took a sip, grimaced theatrically, and declared it an interesting culinary experiment that we should never repeat. When Storm asked if she thought his mother could see them from heaven, Isabella said, "I think she sees everything that matters. And right now, what matters most is you." By day 4, the boys were following her everywhere. By day 7, Marcus found them in the music room, a space that had been locked since Catherine's death, with Isabella teaching them a song on the piano. The melody stopped Marcus in his tracks. "That's..." His voice came out rough. "That's Clair de Lune." Isabella's fingers stilled on the keys. "It is. Do you know it? My wife played it every night before bed." The boy's eyes went wide. "Mama played piano?" River asked. Marcus realized with a jolt that his sons had been too young to remember. They'd been 4 when Catherine died. The memories had faded. "She did," Marcus said quietly, moving into the room. "She was brilliant. She could make this piano sound like magic." "Show us," Storm said suddenly. "Play what Mama played." Marcus's hands trembled as he sat at the bench beside Isabella. He hadn't touched this piano in 3 years. Hadn't let himself remember Catherine's slender fingers dancing across these keys, her copper hair falling forward as she lost herself in the music. Copper hair. Like Isabella's. The thought came unbidden, unwelcome. He pushed it away. His fingers found the keys. The melody was rusty, halting, but it was there. The muscle memory of 1,000 nights listening to his wife play. When he finished, Storm crawled into his lap. "I remember now. I remember Mama's music." Marcus pulled his son close, something cracking open in his chest. Across the bench, Isabella watched with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," Marcus whispered. "For what?" "For bringing us back to her." ACT 3, the revelation, it happened on day 12. Marcus was working late in his study when he heard it. Piano music drifting up from the first floor. Clair de Lune played with such precise, heartbreaking beauty that for one impossible moment, he thought, no. He moved down the stairs like a man in a trance. The music grew louder, more achingly familiar. Through the music room doorway, he saw Isabella at the piano. Her eyes were closed. Her fingers moved with the unconscious grace of someone who'd played this piece 1,000 times. Exactly the way Catherine had played it. Same tempo. Same subtle variations. Same impossible perfection. Marcus's hand braced against the doorframe. Isabella's eyes opened. She saw him and stopped mid-phrase. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I couldn't sleep, and where did you learn to play like that?" "I studied music in college." "That's not what I asked." Marcus moved into the room, his heart pounding. "That piece. You play it exactly the way my wife did. The same interpretation. The same technique." "How?" Isabella's face went carefully blank. "Debussy only has so many interpretations, don't lie to me." The words came out harder than he'd intended. "I've heard hundreds of people play that piece. Nobody plays it like Catherine did. Nobody except you." Silence. Isabella stood from the piano bench. "Mr. Donovan, who are you?" Marcus heard his voice rising. "Who are you really? Why did you come here?" "I came to help your children. 14 nannies applied through proper channels. You showed up out of nowhere, offering to work for free, and you just happened to look like..." He stopped. Because that's when he really saw it. The copper hair. The green eyes. The delicate bone structure. The way she tilted her head when listening. The half-smile when the boys made her laugh. All of it was Catherine. Not similar. Not reminiscent. Identical. "You look like my wife," Marcus whispered. Isabella's face drained of color. "Mr. Donovan, you look exactly like Catherine." "That's not, who sent you?" Marcus's voice turned cold. Dangerous. This was the man who'd built a tech empire from nothing. The man who'd crushed competitors and outmaneuvered corporate raiders. Was it the board? Someone trying to destabilize me? Using my dead wife's face too. "Nobody sent me." Isabella's voice shook. "I came because your children needed help." "How did you know they needed help? How did you know about River's scar or Stone's anger or Storm talking to his mother? How did you know any of it?" The truth. Now. Isabella closed her eyes. When she opened them, tears spilled down her cheeks. "Because," she whispered, "Catherine was my twin sister." The world stopped spinning. Marcus grabbed the piano for support. "What? Catherine was my twin. My identical twin." Isabella's words came faster now, desperate. "We were separated at birth. Different adoptive families. I didn't know she existed until 2 years ago when I did a DNA test and the company matched me with her children." "That's impossible." "Catherine was adopted, Marcus. You knew that." He had known that. Catherine's parents had adopted her as an infant. She'd never known her birth family. "When I found out about the match," Isabella continued, "I tried to reach out. But by then, Catherine was already gone. The cancer." Her voice broke. "I was too late. I never got to meet my sister. I never got to know her." Marcus's mind raced. "So you decided to infiltrate my home? Deceive me?" "I decided to meet my nephews." Isabella's voice strengthened. "I wanted to know the children my sister left behind. I wanted to understand who she was through them. And when I learned they were struggling, that they'd driven away every caregiver, I thought maybe I could help. Maybe I could give them what Catherine would have given them if she'd lived. By pretending to be someone you're not." "I never pretended. I told you the truth about losing someone. About grief. You lied about who you are. Because I knew you'd never let me near them if you knew." Isabella's composure shattered. "I'm a stranger who looks like your dead wife. Would you have hired me? Would you have let me within 100 yards of your children?" The answer was obvious. No. He wouldn't have. "You had no right," Marcus said coldly. "I know. You manipulated us. Deceived my sons. I loved them." Isabella's voice cracked. "From the moment I saw them, I loved them. Because they're hers. They're all I have left of the sister I never got to know." Marcus wanted to rage. To throw her out. To call the police and press charges for whatever he could make stick. But then he looked at Isabella's face. Grief. Raw and real and devastating. She'd lost a sister she'd never met. She'd found nephews she had no legal right to claim. And she'd done the only thing she could think of to be close to them. It was wrong. But God help him, he understood. "Get out," Marcus heard himself say. "Marcus, get out of my house. Pack your things and leave tonight. Please, just let me explain to the boys." "You don't get to explain anything. You don't get to say goodbye. You're a liar who used my children for your own agenda." His voice was ice. "If you're not gone in an hour, I'm calling security." Isabella's face crumpled. But she nodded once and turned toward the door. She made it 3 steps before Storm's voice stopped her cold. "Don't go." All 3 boys stood in the doorway in their pajamas. River's face was hard. Stone's eyes blazed with anger. But Storm's expression was pure devastation. Storm, go back to bed, Marcus said. Is it true? Storm whispered, looking at Isabella. Are you our mama's sister? Isabella knelt down slowly. Yes. Did you come to steal us? No, sweetheart. Never. I came to know you. To love you the way your mama would have. Papa's making you leave because you lied. Isabella's breath hitched. Yes. Storm looked at his father. But Papa lies too. He says he's fine when he's sad. He says work is more important when really he just doesn't want to be home where Mama used to be. He says we're okay when we're all falling apart. Marcus felt like he'd been punched. Sometimes people lie, Storm continued, his voice small but steady, because the truth hurts too much. Right, Papa? The boy's eyes, Catherine's eyes, both in Storm and in Isabella, met his. Marcus sank into a chair. Storm, we like her. River stepped forward, his protective armor finally cracking. She doesn't try to be Mama. She doesn't try to fix us. She just stays. Even when we're awful, Stone added quietly. Nobody else stayed. Please don't make her go, Storm finished. We already lost Mama. Don't make us lose her sister too. Marcus looked at his sons. Then at Isabella, still kneeling on the floor with tears streaming down her face. Then at the piano where Catherine had played 1,000 nights. You're Catherine's twin, he said finally. Isabella nodded. You came here to meet your nephews. Yes. And you lied because you thought I'd never let you near them otherwise. I was wrong to lie. I know that. But I wasn't wrong about them needing someone who understood. Isabella's voice was barely a whisper. I wasn't wrong about you needing someone who understood. Marcus closed his eyes. She was right. The boys were calmer with her than they'd been in 3 years. They smiled. They laughed. They talked about Catherine without breaking down. And Marcus. Marcus had started coming home before midnight. Started eating dinner with his sons. Started remembering what it felt like to be a father instead of just a provider. You look like her, he said. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be. Marcus opened his eyes. My sons deserve to know their mother's face. Even if it's not really hers. Hope flickered across Isabella's features. Does that mean, it means I'm not making you leave tonight? Marcus stood. But we're going to have rules. No more lies. No more secrets. If you want to be part of this family, you do it honestly. I will. I promise. And we're getting a full background check. References. Everything. Of course. And the boys call you Isabella. Not, his voice caught. Not anything else. Isabella nodded, understanding. Just Isabella. Storm launched himself at her, wrapping his small arms around her neck. River and Stone followed, all 3 boys clinging to their aunt like she was a life raft in a storm. Over their heads, Isabella's eyes met Marcus's. Thank you, she mouthed. Marcus didn't respond. Just turned and walked away before she could see his face crumble. Because having Catherine's twin in his house was going to destroy him. He just didn't have the strength to send her away. ACT4, the healing, 3 months changed everything. Marcus learned that Isabella had been raised in Boston by a music teacher and an architect. That she'd gotten her master's in music theory from Berkeley. That she'd been married to Michael Morgan for 2 years before he died in a car accident. That she'd been searching for meaning ever since. I thought finding Catherine would give me answers, she told Marcus one night after the boys were asleep. I thought knowing where I came from would make me feel less lost. Did it? No. Finding out she was dead, that I'd missed her by months, it was like losing someone I'd never had. Isabella smiled sadly. But then I met the boys. And I realized I wasn't looking for my past. I was looking for my future. Marcus understood that more than he wanted to admit. Because Isabella had become essential. Not just to the boys, but to him. She made breakfast while he reviewed contracts. She asked about his work like she actually cared about the answers. She left notes in his briefcase, stupid, sweet notes that made him smile despite himself. Remember to eat lunch. The boys want to show you their art project tonight. You're doing great, even when it doesn't feel like it. Nobody had left him notes since Catherine. And that was the problem. Because every time Marcus looked at Isabella, he saw his wife. Every smile, every gesture, every moment felt like Catherine had come back to haunt him. He was falling in love with a ghost. "You're staring again," Isabella said one evening, catching him watching her help Storm with homework. "Sorry. It's okay. I know I look like her. It's not just that." Marcus set down his coffee. "You sound like her sometimes. The way you laugh. The way you tilt your head when you're thinking. Even the way you drink your coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, always in the blue mug." Isabella's eyes widened. Catherine did that too. Every morning. They sat in silence. Finally, Isabella said quietly, "I'm not trying to replace her. I know. But I can't help being who I am. And who I am is, her sister." Marcus nodded. "I know. Does it bother you? Having me here?" "Yes. No." He didn't know anymore. "It's complicated," Marcus admitted. "You make the boys happy. You make this house feel like a home again. But every time I look at you, I see everything I lost. And it's killing me." Isabella's face fell. "Do you want me to leave?" "No." The word came out too fast, too desperate. "No. That's the problem. I don't want you to leave. I need you here. The boys need you here. I need," he stopped. Because what he needed was terrifying. Isabella moved closer, her green eyes, Catherine's eyes, searching his face. "What do you need, Marcus?" "I need to stop seeing her when I look at you. I need to see Isabella. Not the ghost of my wife, but the woman who sings off-key in the shower and burns toast and stays up past midnight reading trashy romance novels." Isabella's lips curved. "You notice the romance novels?" "I notice everything about you." The air between them shifted. Charged. "Marcus," Isabella whispered. Storm's scream shattered the moment. They ran upstairs to find all 3 boys huddled in Storm's bed, the little boy sobbing while his brothers held him. "Nightmare," River explained. "About Mama." Marcus gathered Storm into his arms. "It's okay, buddy. You're safe." "She was leaving," Storm gasped. "In my dream. She was walking away and I couldn't make her stay." "Your mama didn't want to leave," Marcus said fiercely. "She loved you more than anything. She would have stayed forever if she could. But she didn't." Stone's voice was bitter. "She left anyway." Marcus's chest ached. "I know. And that's not fair. But people leave," Stone continued. "Even when they love you. Even when they promise. Everyone leaves." "Not everyone." Isabella knelt beside the bed. "I'm still here." "For how long?" River's eyes were hard, challenging. "When are you going to decide we're too much trouble and leave like everyone else?" Isabella took a breath. "Do you know what a promise is?" The boys nodded. "It's when you say something true with your whole heart. When you mean it so much that breaking it would break you too." Isabella looked at each boy in turn. "I promise you, with my whole heart, that I'm not leaving. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. You're stuck with me. What if Papa makes you go?" Storm whispered. Isabella's eyes met Marcus's. He won't. How do you know? Because your papa loves you too much to take away someone who makes you happy. Right, Papa? 3 pairs of hopeful eyes turned to Marcus. He thought about the past 3 months. About laughter returning to this house. About his son smiling again. About coming home to a family instead of an empty mansion. About Isabella. Right, Marcus said quietly. Isabella's not going anywhere. Storm crawled across the bed to throw his arms around Isabella's neck. You promise? I promise. Pinky promise. Isabella linked her pinky with Storm's. Then with River's. Then with Stone's. Pinky promise. The boys finally settled back into bed. Marcus and Isabella stood in the doorway, watching them drift off. You meant that, Marcus said. About staying. Every word. Even though I've been an ass about the whole Catherine thing. Even though. Isabella turned to face him. Marcus, I know I'm not her. I'll never be her. But I can be someone who loves your sons. Who loves, she stopped. Who loves what? Isabella's eyes were luminous in the dim hallway. Who loves this family? Something in Marcus's chest finally broke open. 3 years of grief and guilt and loneliness came crashing down. I'm falling in love with you, he whispered. And I don't know if it's because you look like her or because you're you, and it's killing me because it feels like I'm betraying her memory. Isabella's hand came up to his chest. Catherine would want you to be happy. How do you know? Because I know what it's like to love someone and lose them. And if I could come back, if Michael could see me now, I'd want him to know, her voice cracked. I'd want him to know that loving again doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring what we had by choosing to live again. Marcus pulled her close. She fit against him perfectly, same height as Catherine, same slender frame. But when Isabella looked up at him, he didn't see his wife's ghost. He saw a woman who'd fought her way through grief. Who'd found her family against impossible odds. Who'd given his sons back their joy and given him back his hope. He saw Isabella. I'm terrified, Marcus admitted. Me too. This could be a disaster. Probably will be. The boys, will be fine, Isabella finished. They're stronger than we think. Marcus's lips curved. When did you get so wise? About the same time you started smiling again. He kissed her. Soft and tentative and full of promise. When they broke apart, Isabella was crying. Happy tears? Marcus asked. The happiest. She smiled through them. I came here looking for my sister. But I found something better. What's that? A home. Epilogue, 2 years later, the music room was full. Marcus watched from the doorway as Isabella conducted an impromptu concert. River on violin. Stone on drums. Storm at the piano, his small fingers dancing across the keys with shocking skill. And in the corner, the newest member of the family, 6-month-old Catherine Rose Donovan, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Named for the aunt she'd never meet. But who'd given Isabella and Marcus the family they'd built together. You're staring again, Isabella said, catching his eye. Admiring, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. She crossed to him, this woman who'd walked into his life as a stranger and become his everything. Any regrets? She asked. Marcus thought about the journey. The grief. The lies. The moment he'd realized Catherine's twin had come to claim his sons and maybe his heart. Not one. Even though I'm a terrible cook. Even though. And I still burn toast. Especially because of that. Isabella laughed, that full, joyful sound that had filled this house with light again. From the music corner, Storm called out, Papa. Isabella. We wrote a song. Want to hear? Marcus and Isabella joined the boys. Stone counted them in. River's violin soared. Storm's piano anchored the melody. And Isabella sang. Not the Russian lullaby that had started everything. Something new. Something hopeful. Something that was purely theirs. As Marcus listened to his family make music, he thought about the man he'd been 3 years ago. Broken. Lost. Drowning in grief. He thought about the woman who'd appeared in his office, offering to save his children without knowing she'd save him too. He thought about Catherine, would always think about Catherine, with love and gratitude for the years they'd had. But he lived in the present. With the boys who'd learned to smile again. With the baby who'd never know loss. With Isabella, who taught them all that families could be rebuilt from the broken pieces. "What are you thinking?" Isabella whispered. Marcus pulled her close. "That I'm the luckiest man alive. Even with 3 chaotic boys and a crying infant and a wife who can't cook. Especially because of all that." The song ended. The boys took exaggerated bows. Baby Catherine woke up and added her voice to the chaos. And in the middle of it all, Marcus Donovan finally understood what Isabella had known all along. Loving again didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing to build something new from the ashes of what was lost. It meant honoring the past by embracing the future. It meant finding home in the most unexpected places. With the most unexpected person. Who just happened to have his late wife's face, and a heart entirely her own. Final beat, years later, Storm would ask Isabella about the first time she met them. "Were you scared?" he'd want to know. "When you realized you looked just like our mama?" And Isabella would smile and say, terrified. But also hopeful. Because maybe looking like her meant I could give you what she couldn't anymore. A piece of her. A connection to where you came from. Did it work? Isabella would look around at the family they'd built, the boys now young men, the daughter thriving, the husband who'd learned to love again. "What do you think?" And Storm would hug her tight and whisper, "I think Mama sent you. So we wouldn't forget her. But so Papa could be happy again too." Isabella would cry. Like she always did when the boys said things that were too wise for their years. "I think you're right," she'd say. Because some ghosts aren't meant to haunt. Some ghosts are meant to guide. And Catherine's final gift to her family was the sister she'd never known, but who knew exactly what her family needed. Love. Patience. Music. And second chances. The rest, as they say, is harmony.